Slippery Rock Creative is so excited to present their brand new, pre-built After Effects character rigs, the Felties. Now available at slipperyrockcreative.com/store. Enter promo code SUMMER 2015 during checkout for an additional 25% off the entire store. This promo code expires on September 8th, 2015. And now let's take a look on how to use these characters. If you have previously purchased the Leeloo character rigs, I would like to thank you, and you should already be familiar with the basic understanding and navigation of these types of character rigs. The Felty characters are set up in the same way, with a few more bells and whistles thrown in. Okay, let's take a look at the Sphere character. Remember that these characters are controlled by the nulls overlaying the artwork as well as the nulls around the character. You will not be directly manipulating the artwork. To animate, click on one of these nulls. The nulls overlapping the body are animated by position, rotation, and sometimes scale. Not all layers need all attributes. Take a look at the mouth null on the top right. The only attribute that drives animation is rotation. The reason for doing this is for speed. As you animate, you learn the shortcuts for After Effects. For example, the rotation shortcut is the plus or minus sign on the number pad. Lip syncing becomes much faster by hitting the shortcut to dial in the mouth that you need, instead of revealing the rotation attribute on the layer and then clicking and typing in the desired value. Cutting out time and repetition speeds up your workflow and creates better animation. This rotation setup works for blinks, hands, and feet. It can also be used where new artwork needs to cycle through, where puppeting in After Effects is less successful in saving time. Now let's take a look at animating the body. Move the mouse over the sphere body and click. You will highlight the body layer. You can use position to move his body. You will notice that in these rigs, their body rotation is locked on this layer. I did this so I could express it to the face null that is located at the top of the rig. The face slider null does just that. It is sliding the face around to create perspective. The slider animates on X, Y, and rotation or roll. Setting it up this way moves the keyframes away from the body so that you can clearly see your animation keys and paths. Otherwise, you would have a mess of keyframes and paths over your body animation, and selecting or differentiating which key is doing what would be more difficult. If you notice, when the body is animated down, we see the character's knees automatically animate out. The knees of the characters are expressed to the position of the body. This helps save time needing to go back and animate the legs after you have finished body animation. You can also flip the direction of which way the knees bend with the leg bend null located on the left or right side of the character rig. As you animate the legs, there are additional nulls located between the hip and the knee, and between the knee and the ankle. These are to help better finesse the shape of the leg. Now let's take a look at the arms. They are pretty straightforward. Rotate the shoulder and the lower arm follows. You will also notice that the arms track along with the body's position and perspective. This helps to save time by not going back and aligning the arms again. Let's jump up to the face here. We have brows that are animated with position and rotation to give you the flexibility on facial expressions. Below that is the lid null for blinking. Rotate through all the blinks to find the artwork that best suits your acting. Then there are pupil nulls. They animate with position only. They can be animated separate or together for better acting. Here's a bit of a difference in this rig. This rig has cheeks. You can animate Sphere's cheeks for more facial acting. You will notice that the Pyramid rig does not have this feature. Below that is the mouth null, which we talked about earlier. Use that to select the desired mouth artwork. Next are the hand nulls that work the same way as the mouth by rotating and selecting new artwork. This also works for the feet nulls below. Between the hand and feet nulls are depth nulls. These are used to bring forward or push back artwork for better layering in your animation. This is useful for more complex animations. I recommend posing your character, then use these nulls for the desired layering effect. Now let's take a look at Cubed. He is rigged in much the same way. The only difference from Sphere is that he has this body alpha select. I added this into the rig because as I tested him, his legs and arms looked disconnected. They either felt like they were behind the body or floating on top. So to make this feel more connected, I added an alpha layer to crop off or give the illusion that the shoulders or the tops of the legs go below the fur of the body. Take a look at this null and cycle through the desired alpha shapes that best works with your animation. Our final character is Pyramid. He is also rigged in the same way. He does lack the cheeks and the body alpha layer null. As I tested his rig, he really didn't need these features. Now let's try some animation. I recommend you pose your characters and set keyframes for each pose, then go back and turn your keyframes into Bezier keyframes. Then take a look at the timing of the animation. Then adjust keyframe placement in the timeline for better animation. Overlapping or offsetting keyframes helps create a more natural movement or make it look less computery. Now let's take a look how to animate with these character rigs. We will create a simple walk cycle. Click on the left ankle null and simply move it around. You can also find it down here in the timeline by hitting U after you highlight it in the project window. The ankle has position and rotation keyframes set. If I move the ankle null up, a keyframe is set and the knee automatically bends to the left. This is set up using expressions. As you animate the walk cycle, the automatic knee will have to be adjusted and finessed. You can still add animation to the knee null if needed. For a better looking leg shape, use the additional nulls between the hip and knee and the knee and ankle. When starting the walk cycle, I have the rig set up so that the ankle null does most of the animation. The foot null is there to add some more adjustments. So start animating with the ankle null. Okay, let's get started. First, pose your character in the direction you want him to walk. Use the face slider to turn cube facing him screen left. Next, you want both feet to be facing screen left. Take the right foot select null, rotate it until you have the correct left-facing foot artwork. Now that we have our character facing screen left, let's start off animating the timing of the foot. This will give you the first indication that your walk cycle is too fast or too slow. Let's do a basic foot loop movement by using position. The foot loop should take about 1 second. Highlight the right ankle null and hit the U key to reveal the layer's attributes. Set keys at 1 second if you don't already have them set. Then copy and paste those keys at 2 seconds. This will be the start and end of your loop. Then move ahead a few frames and start moving the ankle back. You can rough out the animation and then reposition the keyframes for more natural timing. Then move the ankle up and forward a bit. Next, move the ankle down and to the left for a forward step. It is easier to copy the first keyframe, paste it, and then move it forward. This ensures that your foot will be planted on the ground and not have any floatiness. Keep the distance between the ground keyframes equal. Otherwise, you will have uneven movement, and this will create slippage, breaking the illusion that the character is actually part of the world he is walking in. Once you have the basic timing and movement down, turn your keyframes into linear keyframes and RAM preview the animation. This will give you a rough idea how the animation is coming along. You will notice that it still needs work. Use the Bezier tool to adjust the path of the animation in the project window. Create a nice arc for upper movement of the foot. Then I usually move the top of the arc a bit to the left so that the arc isn't symmetrical. This will make the foot move quickly to the front, and this will help for when the foot needs to slap on the ground. You can also adjust the timing of the keyframes in your timeline. Play around with the spacing between keys to see what kind of results you get. I then add rotation to the ankle null. In this rig you can add rotation to the foot null. Either is fine, it depends on how you like to work. I try to keep it on the same ankle null so I keep the foot null clean. This gives me a layer with no animation so that I can fine-tune the foot animation as needed. At the frame after the most back position of the leg, the foot starts to come up off the ground. I add a rotation keyframe here by using plus or minus keys on the number pad. This gets the foot starting to lift off the ground. Then at the top of the arc, I like to push the rotation down a bit more for an antic before the foot flings back up to plant on the ground. Now I want to push the foot up to create the extreme pose of the foot before it plants. Then step a few frames forward and animate the foot landing on the ground. Then highlight the rotation keys on your timeline and turn them into Bezier keys. Let's see how that looks so far by RAM previewing. This is looking pretty good, and as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to add some change to the foot artwork here, to add more to the slap of the foot on the ground. So let's go right about here and change the artwork. Hit R to reveal the rotation attribute of the foot select null. Use the rotation keys plus and minus on the number pad to rotate through and select the correct artwork. As soon as the foot plants, we want to change the foot back to the original artwork. To finish off the loop, copy and paste the starting keyframes to the end frame of the loop. Now let's see how that looks by RAM previewing. This is looking pretty good. You can experiment a bit more with the timing by grabbing and dragging your keyframes around, but I'm going to leave it as it is. You can notice as the ankle comes up, the knee is bending in the wrong direction. Once you have the ankle animation done, you can use the leg R bend null and rotate it to switch the direction of the knee bend. Copy and paste the knee right bend null keyframes from the start to the end of the loop to make sure the knee bends in the correct direction throughout your walk cycle. This is a good starting point for the leg animation, but you will need to go in and fix the knee placement and adjust the shape of the thigh and shins for a more natural looking shape. Before you adjust the leg any further, let's animate the body moving up and down. Since the leg shape is governed by the ankle and the body position, it would be a waste of time making the leg look good now and then having the body distort your leg animation as you start to plot the body animation. Wait until you have your body animation looking good and then go back and finish the leg. Okay, before we start animating the body, let's copy the keyframes from the start of the loop to the end. When animating a character's walk cycle, the body is at its most high when the leg is the most straight underneath it. And in our case, since we have only animated one leg so far, the body will be at its highest when our ankle is at its highest point and the leg is bent. The body will be at its lowest point when our animated leg is the furthest back and the furthest front in its cycle. You will see how it works once we copy the leg animation we did to the other leg. So let's step through our leg animation with page up and page down to find the points so that we can plot our body animation. And right about here would be the lowest position of the body. Use the arrows to position the body down. Then let's continue to step through and find the first highest point. That should be right about here. Now let's move the body up a bit. If you notice that the start and the end of the cycle are also supposed to be the highest points in the cycle, make sure that those keys are the same value as the one we just plotted. Step forward a bit more in the timeline and find where the leg is kicked out in front, and plot the lowest point here. You could copy the keyframe you made earlier. Then highlight all position keyframes and change them to linear. You can use the hotkey Control, Option Command H to switch between hold and linear keyframes. Now let's see how this looks by RAM previewing. You can see the body movement isn't exactly working. The body needs to have an ease in and out between extreme poses. Highlight and right-click on the position keys and turn them into Bezier keys. The other thing I like to do is going into the graph editor and changing the amount of ease in and out. Now let's take a look at that. Once you have that looking good, you might need to go back and adjust some of the ankle animation or placement. Then adjust the knee, thigh, and shins to finish the leg animation. Now that you have the leg looking good with the body animation, you can copy and paste this animation over to the other leg. Before pasting the animation to the other leg, take a snapshot of the current leg position. Once you paste the keys over, the leg will jump to that position. You will need to highlight and adjust the keyframes back over to the original position as a group. Now that you have the two legs animated, they are in sync with one another. What you want to do is grab the left leg keyframes and slide them all in the timeline to start in the middle of the loop. Then copy the keyframes and paste them so that you're creating a loop. You may have to play around with the timing. If you notice, the character's balance feels a little off. So highlight the ankle and knee keyframes for the left leg and move them to the right a bit. Before you move on, you will notice that the leg and foot layering isn't quite right. Use the leg depth nulls to get the correct layering. Make sure to have the layering correct at the start of the loop animation and copy and paste the keyframes at the end. This will ensure that the legs don't change during your animation. Now we need to add some body rotation and arm animation. First, let's tackle the body rotation or twist. Highlight the face slider. In a basic walk cycle, if the front leg is moving forward, the body is twisting towards us. If the leg is moving back, the body is twisting away. Let's plot those position keyframes and set them to Bezier keyframes. Let's move on to the arms. Highlight the layering nulls, use rotation to move the arm artwork forward. Now let's rotate the shoulder in the opposite direction of the screen right leg. If you notice that the body alpha select isn't quite working in this case, you can either rotate it to select a new shape or no alpha at all. Or you can adjust the arm depth nulls to pull the arm artwork above the entire body. Either way will work. Now that the layering is correct, let's continue with the arm animation. Set the shoulder rotation to Bezier and adjust the animation with the graph editor if needed. Then you can copy the animation to the elbow. With some slight adjustments and offsetting the keyframes by 2 frames, you have quickly animated the elbow. You can do the same thing with the hands, copy the previous animation and paste it, and offset the animation by 2 frames. To loop the elbow and hand animation, copy and paste the keyframes from earlier. Now that the arm is looping, let's add some more animation to the hand by selecting new artwork for the hand as the arm swings. This isn't necessary, but it adds a bit more variety. Now do the same for the back arm. Use the same loop and offset techniques. You can add a blink or other facial expressions as well. Now for a bit of housekeeping in your project. What I like to do is create clean loops. In the timeline, you should be able to see a clear start and end point to your loop. That means deleting any extra keyframes as well as adding some new ones. First, I like to make sure that at the first frame of the loop, all layers have all attributes keyed. So go to the top, click on the first empty diamond and create a keyframe, and hold while dragging down the layers. Then jump to the end of the loop and do the same. Now the loop is encapsulated. Delete any keyframes outside of the columns of keys. There you have a nice clean walk cycle. To loop the walk cycle, just copy these keys and paste them at the end of the cycle. The first keyframe that you paste should overlap the last keyframe. Do this for all layers, or at least the ones with animation. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the character rigs. Once again, enter promo code SUMMER 2015 during checkout for an additional 25% off the entire store. This promo code expires on September 8th, 2015.